So I just realized as I was walking on the stage, I forgot to put my microphone on this morning. So I'm going to do it this way, just because, man, by the way, thank you. And then my wife, I forgot my coffee, those kind of things. Actually, can you bring that to me? Because I am going to need that. My name is Matt Portman. I'm the lead pastor here. And you may have noticed that things are a little different today when you came in the auditorium or into the atrium. And so there's lots of things going on different today. So you'll get that. Do you want me to put that on now? No. Okay, just keep going. Okay. All right. Well, we're going to watch a video, thankfully, so I can put this microphone on. We're going to jump into our teaching this morning. And it's going to be a little bit different. And so to introduce how we're going to do that and what we're going to talk about today, take a look at this video.
It's a rare condition this day and age to read any good news on the newspaper page. And love and tradition of the grand design, some people say, is even harder to find. Well, then there must be some magic clue inside these gentle walls. 'Cause all I see is a tower of dreams, real love bursting out of every scene. It's the bigger love of the family.
Two. There we go. Perfect. We planned all of that, by the way, just so you know. It was planned. All right, so how many of you guys remember this TV show from the 90s? All right, what was the name? Family Matters. That is correct. That is Family Matters, right? With Mr. Steve Urkel, those kind of things, right? Well, I use that today as we begin this morning because, again, you may have noticed when you came in today that things were a little bit different out in the atrium and looked a little bit different. We have some organizations out there this morning. We're going to tell you about those in just a second. And we are doing something a little bit different today. So I'm glad you're here because it matters a lot. We are doing something that we have effectively called Foster Family Matters Sunday, making the connection there with, the show Family Matters. Many of you know here at Cornerstone that we have a heart for foster families, foster kids. It's been in our fabric since day one. We love them. We try to do what we can to help them. It matters because it matters to God. I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. But it's also why, if you don't know, we actually have a foster closet that we run here through Cornerstone's ministry. And another church was going to stop doing that ministry. By the way, when COVID hit, we had 3 foster closets in the area, and I believe 2 of them have shut down, correct? We had 4, and 2 of them shut down. 4 of them, and then 2 of them shut down because of COVID. And this would have been the 3rd one shut down, and so the church was like, the board was like, this matters too much. We can't let this go. So we took it on. We had no idea how we were going to do it. But then God showed us through one of the volunteers of the church that there was a building right down the street that was empty and we could use. And so we now have a foster closet because it's part of our heartbeat. It's what matters to us significantly, kids and families and foster care. And so it matters to us for many reasons, but because it matters to God. And I want to talk about 2 scripture verses real quick. It says in Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 18, it says, He, God, defends the cause of the fatherless and the widow and loves the foreigner residing among you, giving them food and clothing. And so God loves and cares about, defends the cause of those, that's what it says there in the text, of those who end up in a situation without adequate care or care of their parents. They become somewhat fatherless or motherless in a sense, desiring for them, God desires for them to get their needs met, food, clothing, protection, love. God cares about this. And so folks, do you know that we should then care about this? Right? It matters. It says in James chapter 1, verse 27, the other scripture I want to use, religion that God and our Father accepts as pure and faultless is this, to look after orphans, I underline that there, and widows in their distress. And so not only does it matter to God that these kids get attention and care and love, he actually looks to, guess what? Us. Right? He looks to us, humans, followers of Jesus, Christians in particular, those in faith, to help these kids and these families. And so kids matter. Many of you know that Leah used to be the children's ministry director at a church. I was a youth pastor. And so we have a heart for kids. And often around here, we say that many churches will say, oh, kids are the next generation. And we're like, no, they're the current generation. They matter now. Right? And so some of this just comes from a heartbeat that Lee and I have as leaders in the church and all things. But I think God has really put us in a position to really care about this. And so By the way, I want to just tell you today, I think that this issue should matter to all of us on some level, right? This should matter to all of us on some level. And so here's what we want to do today. Our goal today in this Foster Family Matters Sunday is we want to highlight foster care as a whole, okay? The need and how we may get involved, whether that's helping out with our foster closet here at Cornerstone or with one of the foster organizations that are with us. Again, they're out in the atrium, and we're going to tell you about those in a minute. Or maybe that's supporting one of our Cornerstone foster families. We have quite a few foster families in our church family, supporting them on a regular basis, whether it's that, or maybe, I was praying for this morning on my way in, that maybe some of you might actually get a stirring in your heart from God to become a foster parent. I would really love for at least one in every service. And by the way, what if it was 10? And here's why, and I'm going to give you some statistics in the midst of this. Because not only do we want to highlight this today, we want to see if we can move the needle, if I can say it that way. Unfortunately, foster care is a massive undertaking, I did some looking up some statistics this week. Listen to this, there are 400,000 kids in foster care in the United States. 400,000. And of those 400,000, 100,000 of them are waiting for adoptive families. And this is what blew me away this week. In Indiana, is actually, of those 400,000 kids, Indiana is home to 31,000 of those kids, the fourth highest in the nation. So this ought to matter to us in Indiana, folks. And I know that those are sobering statistics, but then I went a little deeper and I dug. So it said 100,000 of those kids are waiting to be adopted. And by the way, there's been a 13% drop in Indiana of kids getting adopted for foster care since 2018. Actually, this was the most sobering thing for me. I actually kind of broke down in my office a little bit this week, is that it found that sorry, I want to get my stats right. There are a bunch of these foster kids that are actually aging out and emancipating. And of those that are doing that, this kills me, is one out of 5 foster teens who age out or emancipate, listen to this, will be homeless within 2 years of leaving care. So the truth is, foster care is a massive undertaking, but we can't do nothing. We can't do nothing. And I know now there's a pin drop in the room. But can I tell you, I think that should be the way it should be. So here's what I don't want to do, is I don't want to say that, okay, we're going to fix foster care. We're going to fix the orphan crisis in the world. By the way, I would love to do that, but I don't think that's really humanly possible, because how many of you know that there's evil and there's pain in the world? But here's what we want to do today, and why we would give up a Sunday, right? We would give up a Sunday of everything else to say this matters enough to God. We want to move the needle. We want to highlight this foster care stuff as a whole, the need, which I think I just did just a little bit. And we're going to have a panel discussion today with some of our foster families to help us kind of better understand this whole thing and really kind of see if we can just move this needle. Like if we can go from here to here at the end of today, man, I think that today would be a success. Okay, so that's our goal today. And ultimately highlighting how maybe and which way that each one of us may be able to get involved, okay? So before I pull up the panel, though, I'm going to have my wife, Leah, come up, and she's going to share with you about the organizations that are out in the atrium. Leah runs our benevolence fund, also the foster closet, so she's in contact with a lot of these organizations. And here's what we're going to do today, is before I give her a chance to talk, is that we want you to go talk to them after service. Like, it would be horrible, by the way, if we asked these people to come and nobody talks to them after service, okay? So go talk to them. Like, just find out what they do. What are they a part of? Like, even if it's just for you to get in the know of what they do, right? But it's also how you may be able to support them, and then some other information that maybe you might need as well. So Leah will take it from here.
Okay, so first up, we have Benchmark Family Services, and they exist to find caring, attentive foster homes for children in need. Becoming a foster parent isn't always easy or straightforward, so they work hard to bring transparency to the process while providing foster parents with the information and resources they need. Whether you're ready to join the world of foster care or you're still trying to decide if it's right for your family, they would love to talk to you. Next, we have Josiah White's Foster Care Agency. Their goal is to offer hope and transformation through Christ to children and families. They work with families who desire to become foster families. Their goal is to make the process easier and to provide support. Next, we have Homes of Compassion. Homes of Compassion is focused on caring for children whose parents are experiencing difficult situations. Their goal is to follow in the footsteps of Jesus by loving and welcoming children in need into Christian homes of temporary care. This care helps reduce the risk of child abuse and offers practical assistance to families. This keeps children in a safe Christian environment, which gives their parents time to work through their immediate crisis. And in the end, the parent and the children are then reunited. CASA, we talked about this in our benevolence report last week, stands for Court-Appointed Special Advocate. They believe that every child should be given the opportunity to thrive in a safe and loving home. Court-appointed special advocate volunteers are appointed by judges to advocate for children's best interests. This best interests advocacy makes a life-changing difference for children and youth who have experienced abuse or neglect, many of whom are in foster care. And then finally, we have Michiana Family Center. Michiana Family Center is committed to connecting foster youth and families in the Michiana area with volunteers. This raises support for foster families in Michiana and encourages encouragement for foster children so they can thrive as children and adults. They do this through a mentor program, care teams, and foster support groups. So we are so grateful for all of these agencies coming out this morning. And again, we highly encourage you to stop and talk more to them and learn more about what they do.
Okay, awesome. Can we just give them a round of applause for being here this morning? Thank you so much for being here. Foster family folks, you want to come on up, and we're going to get going into this. These guys are going to come on up. These are actually families that we actually have a relationship with here at Cornerstone in our church that are doing this amazing task of caring for foster kids and those kind of things. And so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to introduce them to you to start so that you know who's up here. But also, we're going to have 5 questions that are going to come up on the screen, and we're just going to have them talk to you because I think sometimes what can happen is that there's a concept of fostering, and then there's a reality of fostering. Right? And so we want them to get to a place where, yes, I told Kaylin to make sure to grab some tissues on our way up. So we want this, hopefully we want to move the needle so that even that could be good. If we could get a real good picture of what fostering really is, I think that could move the needle. But then there's some other things that we'll talk about that hopefully will help that process as well. So over here, all the way to my right, your left, is Steve and Sarah Truex. Many of you know Steve and Sarah. Give them a round of applause for being here today. In the middle are Kay and Ryan Johnson. Give them a round of applause. And then right next to me here is Sadie and David Meehan. So like I said, what we're going to do is I'm going to bring a question up on the screen, and then each one of them might be just different orders, things like that. We're going to have them answer that, and hopefully you'll get a good picture of what things look like. So first question is this. Can you give us a picture of your foster care journey? How did you get started, and why? And what's it look like since you started? So there's really 3 questions in one, right? All right, so I'm just going to have them from Sarah and Steve all the way over here, just kind of talk through all of that. So you can just start.
Sarah made me do it. No, our foster journey has been pretty rewarding. We got involved. Sarah had worked in the system for a while, and we got involved because we felt called. We felt like God was calling us to do it, but there was a little bit of our ulterior motives in that as well, because we had an opportunity to adopt our son Braden, which ultimately we did. And we've had a lot of ups and downs through several kids in our home. We've done a ton of respite, and we'd like to do respite to help out other foster families.
Yeah, so I was a social worker for about 15 years before becoming a foster parent. I started off, working with kids in different environments, and then moved into working with kids in foster care and doing therapy with them, and just realized and saw the big need. And so one of the big things that drew me to Steve was that he was also willing to foster kids. Like we had talked about that when we first started dating, and so we've been licensed for 6 years. We've had about a dozen kids during that time, and like he said, we've done respite for, I don't know, probably 50 kids. Yes, respite is when another licensed foster family takes some foster kids to give, whether it's the foster parents a break, or if they're going on a vacation and the foster child has visits during that time and the courts won't approve the child going on vacation and things like that. So we've done anywhere from one night for a bunch of kids up to, I think we've done like 2 weeks at one point with one kiddo. So yeah.
And you would suggest, I'm sorry, I'm just adding questions. So I know we've talked before, like respite is something that potentially people can help with.
Absolutely. It does take you getting fully licensed, so you have to go through that entire process. But you can actually say initially, especially to start, I'm willing just to start off with respite, kind of get my feet wet and figure out from there where things are going. And it is so needed. This weekend alone, we were asked for 2 separate kids to do respite. And because we had to be at church all day today and we have a birthday party this afternoon, we couldn't do it. And so I don't know if those kids are, if those foster parents are getting breaks or not, but respite homes are really, really needed.
Yeah, good, thanks. Ryan Kay.
I'm going to start it off by saying the Wernz Tribe got respite for us for watching our kids whenever we want to sneak off, so throw them under the bus right there. I love those two. But Kay and I's journey are kind of different. I started doing fostering because my older brother, Thomas, he came to our home at 18 months, and my parents ended up adopting him at 2 years old. And having him there my whole life has just been everything to me. So I always wanted to do fostering and get into it so I can get back and help out. And just, I can tell you right now, just having them is just, it's amazing. So that's my journey. And now here's my lovely wife.
Let's see if I can get through this. So for me specifically, we didn't really talk about fostering when we first got together or got married, but I started working at an elementary school, a Title I elementary school, which if some of you don't know, that's for lower income families. So there were a lot of children that were in foster care already, and some that could have easily ended up in foster care with their home situations. So that was just something that really pulled at my heartstrings. I'm a very emotional person, so that was hard for me. I had children that would be like, I want to come home with you on the weekend, and I'd be like, I want to bring you home, but that's not how that works. So that was just something that really was pushing us in that direction. And then we also started attending Cornerstone, and we met the Mehans and the Truexes, and I think both of them really played a big part in pushing us in that direction that we were already feeling pulled towards. So we appreciate them tremendously for having conversations with us about all the things that are involved in helping us get started.
Can I interject? Oh, sorry. No, we like to have people over for dinner to talk about foster care. We actually had them over for tacos, so if anybody wants to come over for tacos, we'll
all be
share.
there. Yeah, that would be nice. I don't know if we really answered the other part, but basically it says, like, what has your journey been like? I don't think we can put that into words. Everyone that becomes foster parents experiences different things, and truly, until you're in the thick of being a foster parent, you have no idea what to expect. No matter what the Mehans or the Truexes have experienced, we probably haven't, or we experienced something different. And we're also babies compared to these two who have been in it for a long haul. We're only on year 4. We're going into year 4 of foster parenting. So I know we have a lot to learn still.
And correct, you guys have fostered how many children?
For us, we have, I think 7.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, babies compared to these.
Yeah. Cool. I know you're going to talk more about your journey here in just a little bit too in your other answers. So, all right, Sadie and David.
I was working at JJC for about 8 years, and I've seen the Juvenile Justice Center. And I saw a lot of foster kids come in as runaways or picked up on arrests and stuff like that, and it just made me see what I could do to help fix that or be a part of the positive side of it.
Yeah, so he would come home and tell me stories about that, and we had kind of a unique situation where my best friend was a single mom, and she was a nurse, and so she worked a grueling 11P to 11A schedule. So we kind of helped raise her daughter until she was of school age. And so we kind of knew that we could disagree with parents and then still give them back at the end of the day. So I felt like that was God's way of kind of preparing my heart to be able to let go. And we just had room and we wanted to start a family, and it wasn't happening between the two of us. So we thought fostering was a great option. We originally got licensed just to foster. We were not licensed to adopt. And then our first placement never went home. So they said, you have to take this class or we have to move him. So we got licensed to adopt. We've adopted 4 kiddos, and we have 2 fosters in our home that adoption is their current plan.
Awesome. And just to give that a round of applause for that. That's really good stuff. And Sadie, when we met and we talked, you threw out a statistic that I did not know. How many children have you fostered?
Last time I counted, it was in the 50s, but I haven't really looked.
That's incredible. That's incredible stuff. I was like, oh, that's probably like, it's in the double digits. I didn't know if it was that far in the double digits, so it's awesome. Yeah. So again, like you kind of got a sense, right? Like different journeys, different stories, different reasons why you do it, all that kind of stuff. But I think it's important to know all that stuff. Second question. What is one highlight of your foster care journey and a story of benefit for the kids and for you? We're going to have Sadie and David start, and then we're going to go that way.
Okay, so like I just shared with you, we have 4 beautiful children, hopefully soon to be 6. So those are definitely the highlights. But one of the benefits, I guess, of doing this for so long is that we have taken a lot of teenagers, which means that we have a lot of adult kiddos already. So we have 2 foster daughters that we're really close to. And it's just amazing. Like our one daughter, we are just amazed that she's doing as well as she is doing, because it was a rough time with her, and she's thriving in California. We have another daughter who's in Ohio, and it's just amazing to watch them grow up, and like they're still like, they FaceTime us for everything all day long, and so they're still like a big part of our lives.
Yeah,
so.
I love that. I put in my notes after I read that from Sadie's response was that I love that you loved them to great, right? Oh, got me choked up a little. That matters. The fact that these kids, see, that's why we have a heart for this stuff. That could have been, you were supposed to be the one crying. But man, I tell you what, like, who knows if the Mehans wouldn't have stepped in, what that child would be today. Holy cow. It's incredible. Incredible. So, sorry, that was not in my notes. Okay, go ahead.
About that all the time with my daughter. For us, our biggest highlight in our journey, we took Raya home from the hospital at 10 days old, and we adopted her at 20 months. It was such a beautiful day. We are now on our way to adopting our second kid, and he will be 18 months old when we adopt him. We have rejoiced in this beautiful blessing, and it's just been such an amazing experience. Picking him up from the hospital is our journey, and then just seeing him grow, and then hopefully being able to adopt him.
Also, just another highlight is just all the people that we've met along the way, other foster families. Some of our CASAs have been incredible. Our caseworkers, it's touch and go at times, but we're learning. And then also just growing in our faith as foster parents, and just being able to bring our kids to church and have them dedicated.
Yeah, that's good.
For me, some of you may remember Jordan, and yes, I'm just going to say his name and put it out there, but we had a foster son several years ago, and he was in kindergarten or first grade, and for Mother's Day, he had to draw a picture of Mommy in the morning. And I was kind of dreading what that would look like, but he brought it home, and it was a picture of me in my morning chair with my coffee reading my Bible. And that story, we could be the only Jesus that these kids see. And that to me just kind of, it not only changed my perspective of it all, I have a big responsibility. These kids need to see Jesus. So many of these kids are in such horrible situations, and I love that story about him. He was a tough one, but that's a beautiful redeeming story in that situation.
I'll just echo kind of what Sarah said. We have an obligation to show Jesus, not just to the kids that come into our homes, that everybody we come in contact with, but it's just been pure joy to be able to bring the kids to church, be able to talk to Jesus about talk to them about Jesus, and talk to Jesus about them too.
Yeah, right.
But when you bring a kiddo into your home from a hard place and you show them Jesus, and then you walk by the bathroom, or you walk by their bedroom, and they're singing a worship song that they heard in church. You know that God is in the midst of that, even when it's hard and you feel like you're alone.
And what I love about that, too, by the way, is that how many of you know that not every foster kid's going to go to an environment like that, right? Though they're licensed and they do things, whatever, like some people are just doing it because they care about kids, but there's a difference in doing it because we care about kids and then infiltrating Jesus into the midst of that. And so I love the fact that, there's been, that is why Steve and Sarah have done what they've done, because it's it's not just about having kids and seeing them and do that. It's about seeing the effect of Jesus in their life.
James 1:27. That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And we've wanted to quit a lot of times, but
Yeah.
God keeps saying no.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that actually goes to our next question. Actually, let's go to our next question. Why do you think people who maybe are called to do so sometimes end up saying no to fostering? And I think we're going to have Kay and Ryan start, and then Sarah and Steve, and then Sadie and David.
Okay. I kind of figured that someone up here would say that every single person they come in contact with is like, I don't want to be a foster parent because I couldn't give them back. So I was actually going to avoid that answer. But for us personally, we haven't experienced that, I'll be honest. That's not fair to say. We had a few children that were very short-term placements, no longer than 10 days. But the three that our daughter that we adopted, we had since birth. Then we have had our son since birth, who's moving towards adoption, and then we have his half sibling in our care now too, and he is almost 4 months old. So every case that we've had has went towards adoption. So we haven't experienced that heartache. So I can't speak directly on that, but I do hate when people say that, because I feel like that shouldn't be the only reason that you're holding yourself back from becoming foster parents, because in that moment, you can provide a lot for a child, even if it's for 3 days or 3 years. Hopefully that's not the case, but unfortunately that does happen sometimes. And so I don't want to discourage people from that just because you think you can't give a child back. You're providing them with so much in that amount of time that they're with you. So, but also, I think foster care gets a bad name in a lot of ways. People talk very negatively about DCS, Department of Child Services in general. They talk bad about their caseworkers. They talk bad about their CASAs at moments. And every time you're telling a story about your foster journey, you tend to lead with the negative because you're in the thick of it and you're frustrated, and that's what you want to talk about because you're venting. So I think when we start with the negative, some people can't see past that, and so they can't see all the good that comes from it too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I think that's a great perspective, because again, this is messy. like this is really messy. And so it's not going to go perfectly, right? And so the reality is that it's easy just to vent it all out. But like why we started, by the way, the first 2 questions was about the journey and talking about the greatness and all this kind of stuff is because there is so much good, right? And I think sometimes all we hear is the bad, right? So yeah, that's good. Sarah and Steve.
I'd add to that, Matt. When you say it's messy, like it's not messy just because of the things that kids experience that they don't deserve to experience, but it's messy because we're all sinners.
Sure.
Caseworkers are sinners. CASAs are sinners, right? Like we live in a fallen world where it's full of brokenness, and it's not just we're not just bringing brokenness into our home. We're inviting them into our brokenness too.
Yeah, that's good.
And so sometimes it's a tough thing to navigate when you're giving up. And to answer the question, like I think some families don't do it because, man, you have to give up a lot of freedom to schedules and appointments and trauma that kids experience. Like there's a lot you give up, but man, the things that you gain out of it are it's tenfold.
Yeah,
you know, it's tough to look at it and go, I might argue with a kid every single day. I've done that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, you know, hopefully the seeds that you can plant in their lives are a far greater reward than the temporary struggles you have with them.
Yeah. Which is not unlike a lot of things in life, right? I mean, some of the most rewarding things are the things that are actually tough to get, right? And so that makes sense.
I'm going to be honest because I am really honest in these situations. I think that we don't want to get out of our comfort zones. And I think that it's hard. It's hard to say yes to really hard things. But the reality is God doesn't call us to live an easy life, does he? He calls us to get out of our comfort zones and to grow. And because of the decisions that Steve and I have made, we've grown together as a couple. We've both grown spiritually, and but it's not always easy to say yes.
And our family's grown.
Yeah.
Our family's grown through the process too.
Yeah, that's good. Yep, I agree. Yeah. Sadie and David, it's good stuff.
It's fear and, you know, trying to make a sacrifice for these kids. And you do get to see like a positive thing, like maybe their parents just needed a break from having their kids so they could work on their issues and beat their drug addiction or whatever they were fighting. And we've seen parents like get back on track and get their kids back.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, awesome. Sadie, would you add anything?
Just to that end, like we had a baby we got from the hospital and we had him for almost a year. And so it is hard. Babies just love you unconditionally, right? So there's no arguing with a teenager. So it's like that relationship is just pure love. And so, but it was a beautiful thing to see his parents work their program, do the work, and I love, like, she still sends, I mean, this was almost 6 years ago, she still sends me pictures, like, when he loses his first tooth and when he said his first word, I got a video of that. So, like, there are beautiful things that end in reunification. I know it's hard, and people say I can't imagine giving them back, but, like, I can't imagine not giving him back to his mom and dad who did what they needed to do and are great parents.
And I just had this thought, actually, we were sharing. It's interesting. You know, we're here at Cornerstone, we're about relationship at our core, right? I just had this thought of like, you're actually expanding your relationship circles, like, continually, right? Like, I love the fact that you have these kids in Ohio and whatever, and you have now this relationship with this mom, who's, by the way, I'm guessing really grateful that you took care of her son when she couldn't, and then now she's done everything she's done, and now it's like, oh, now I'm so thankful for Sadie and David, you know. So it just feels good. It feels like, wow, this seems like it fits with our church. Relationship circles are just continuing to expand, which is really good. All right, next question. Can you talk about what keeps you up at night in regard to fostering? About things that you maybe didn't know you would be doing before you began, specifically about helping carry trauma the kids have. And we're going to talk, we're going to go this way. So Sadie and David, and we'll go that way.
Okay, so being veterans, we have certainly had our fair share of kids come back into the system. And for us, last year was really difficult. We had a young man who we had for 6 months when he was 13. And when they called and said, "We know that you're full, but can you take one more?" And explained who it was and what was going on, we're like, yeah, absolutely. And even as veteran foster parents, we were like, yeah, he was so easy. Like when we had him 4 years ago, he was just a normal like video game loving kid. And the kid that came back to our house was a kid who had just suffered through 4 unbelievable years of trauma, being placed back with his family. And he just required so much care. I mean, he was on medicines I had to organize just so that he could sleep at night. We had multiple mental health crises happening. And it finally, after 8 months of us trying everything we could, it was just determined that he needed to stay in a residential facility and have 24-hour care. And that was really hard for me to let go, really hard. And he's been gone since October, and his room still looks like his room. And I can't bear to rearrange it. It's actually our living room that we had to convert so we could take him. And it's still set up like a bedroom. And I just go in there and think about him and pray for him. And, you know, he turned 18, and I'm worried about what happens when he's done with that care facility. So,
Yeah. Thanks for sharing.
Okay. So for us, we have only experienced young kiddos in our home. So currently our age is like 6 and under. So most of our children have been really little babies from the hospital in our experience. And so I think for us, what keeps me up at night, I don't know about him, but is just not the unknown of how their trauma will affect them.
What keeps us up at night is not knowing when they get older if we're going to answer all the questions the right way. You know, if the parents are going to be around to meet them, if all the questions that you can just imagine are going to pop in your head. We hope that we answer them the right way, but you never truly know. And also, our littles are just some sickly little kids, so that definitely keeps me up at night. Every time I wake up, I look over there like, all right, chest is going up and down, good. So it's just the constant worry. Since all this happened so fast, it's just my mom always said, you never know about worry, and it's just the worry over everything. I just hope we do it the right way.
Yeah, Kay doesn't want that anymore. She's done.
For me, I would say, well, there's a couple things. Number one is, again, not knowing what's going on with them after they're gone. Sweet young lady that we had last year from Honduras, and we're really worried about her. And it's sad. We try and stay in contact on social media, but I'm hoping that she's still getting her education and moving forward. But the other side of it is just dealing with the day in and day out traumas. They're hard. They're really hard. And sometimes, you know, you're so exhausted you can't sleep, and you got everything running through your mind. And did I address this correctly? And did I handle the situation? Did I say the right words? A lot of that is, you know, pretty typical parenting, but kind of to the next extreme, because you've got all the additional traumas and stressors going along with all of that. So.
One of the things that really keeps me up at night about just foster care in general is honestly a lot of the statistics that Matt shared at the beginning. There's a statistic that says that if one family in every church in America would foster, there'd be no more foster care. Or adopt, sorry. There'd be no more foster care. You know, there's some pretty startling statistics about kids not graduating high school, not being able to carry functional jobs, not being able to go to college. And those things, some of those things in the grand scheme of thing, when you talk about trauma, don't seem like they're super important, but they matter, especially when you have older kids that wonder what their future will look like because all they can remember is their past. And one of the other things that gets me is a lot of times when we share, I don't remember who said it, but somebody said that you know, we a lot of times we share the negative, and we share the negative first, and sometimes the negative is maybe a kid that we're having trouble with, who is really struggling with some random behavior, and a lot of people will say, "Well, my kids do the same thing." If you're not parenting kids from trauma, and your kids do the same thing, you might check your parenting. The reality is kids do things that look a lot like what your kids do, and they've been with you their whole lives, but they don't do it for the same reasons. And so I really struggle with that when I hear that.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing. And I think that question is important to talk through because what we didn't want, like we started with the good stuff, right? But like the reality, it is a roller coaster. And so I even appreciate the question about why people don't do it. It's like, that's why, right? Like it's a roller coaster. And I like roller coasters, right? I mean, and I appreciate Sarah even saying like God did not call us to the easy, right? And so though there are things that do keep them up at night and those kind of things, I think what you're also hearing is the value that they're still doing it. Because by the way, any of them could choose to stop, right? But they're willing to stay on the roller coaster. And I think it's important. Last question. Yeah, go ahead.
We've had kids in our house that have been respite for a night or for 2 nights. And when they call you for respite, usually you know ahead of time what that looks like. You know, a day, 2 days, a week, whatever it is. Sometimes you get a kid for a day and you get a call the next day, hey, the foster family actually gave up. Like, they're not doing it, right? And we get the opportunity to keep them longer. And man, what a joy that is sometimes to just be able to continue to love on a kiddo. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 days and DCS calls and says, hey, we still don't have anything. Yeah. You know, sometimes a respite turns into a placement. Yeah. And you just get to pour into kids. So, I mean, it is the roller coaster. But again, it's so worth it. Yeah. You just fall in love with kids.
Yeah. I love it. Thanks for sharing that. So last question is this, because again, they're doing something that's really a roller coaster, can be tough times. So I asked them this: what is one specific thing per month that you would regularly say yes to that would make you feel supported by individuals and by Cornerstone? So I'm gonna have each one of them share. And this is the idea. At the end of this, my hope is we're gonna give you an opportunity to step up and do this for these families in our church, okay? So just be paying attention to what they share, because you may wanna help out in some way. So I'm gonna have Ryan and Kay start, and then Sadie and David, and then we'll end with Sarah and Steve.
Okay, I think I'm good now. But simply put, meals. We appreciate food. It does not have to be steak. It can be pizza. Steak is delicious. Actually, our daughter loves steak. So,
Funny.
But I mean, I think people forget or don't realize like how many people are in and out of your home when you have placements.
Oh, sure.
CASAs, caseworkers, therapists, yeah, things like that. So, and for me, I'm a stay-at-home mom with 3 kids under 3, and it's exhausting. And so thinking about feeding them 3 times a day with everything else we have going on is just...
Yeah, but right, you have also visits.
Yeah,
and,
visits, all of, just navigating everything, and then... Yeah, he said our kids are sickly. They are very sickly. And so just all of the appointments and all the people in and out of your house, just a meal would make life a little easier.
Yeah, that's good. Sadie and David.
Like one thing for us is like we've lost family along the way that supported us. Like my mom just passed away in December. Her dad passed away a couple years ago, and they were like the two biggest foundations of support for our kids. And losing them, it kind of just sucks because the kids don't have them there anymore. And just having support, like family to support, they were there at the beginning, like, yeah, we'll help you, we'll be there for you, and it just kind of has dwindled through our 10 plus years.
Yeah. Anything else you'd share, Sadie?
Babysitters.
Yeah.
I mean, like all parents, they struggle to be able to find time to have a date night or whatever. And with 6 kids with challenging needs, like I don't get anybody volunteering to do that for us. So being able to go and reconnect, because when we're pouring into these kids, like it's hard to pour into each other. So just being able to have a date night on occasion would be amazing.
Yeah, great. Yeah. Sarah, Steve?
So I've got 2. One is meals. Luckily, we have my mom who's been really, really helpful and brought us 7 freezer meals in 2 days, which was really nice in transitioning and with just the craziness of life. And we've got a lot of appointments too after the school day every day. So that's been very helpful. And then another thing is time away, date nights. I've had to, in knowing our journey and kind of where we've been with where we're at right now with placements, one thing that I had to do was very intentionally pursue childcare. It's not easy to ask for help. It sucks asking for help. I just said suck on stage.
That's all right. I do it all the time. That's fine.
It's not fun asking for help. But I've had to do that with a couple of friends who I know have been really supportive of our journey. And that's been helpful. We got to go have dinner on Friday and do some axe throwing, which was nice. But definitely, like, even if home groups want to take some time and watch kids, foster kids, adoptive kids, that would be wonderful.
He's going to say whatever she said.
Yeah, I don't have anything else. It's, Ryan likes tacos. I know that.
Yeah, right.
Let's be clear, Ryan likes all food.
Well, all food. All food. around this
We
food.
both do.
All right, so here it is, church. Here's what we're going to do. Put that other slide up. Here's what I want you to do. I would like, hopefully, some of you right now at this very moment to open your phone and email info@cornerstone.email, and in the title put, I want to help our foster families, and put what you want to do in that email. And send it to us, because here's what Leah's going to do. This week, she's going to try to compile a list, and we're going to try to accomplish once a month what will help them. Okay? By the way, I think we should do that. I think that's honorable to what God has called them to do and what ultimately all of us to do. And so get that out right now. Just info@cornerstone.email. I want to help our foster families, and tell us what you want to do. And Leah's going to try to line that up and have a regular schedule of doing this. Because it would be awesome if we could do like a meal here and then, they actually get a date night and those kind of things. And again, like I know some of you guys, you have young families and whatever, and so those kind of things. And so you're like, well, I could do that too. And I get that. But like, I think what we're talking about with this is that you likely don't have as many appointments as they do. Right? You might not have as many people. No, maybe you do. Maybe you have sickly kids too. I don't know. But like the reality is like we just feel like this is a way that we feel like we're kind of called to help out. So I hope so many of you are doing that right now, and then we'll get in touch with you. Leo will get in touch with you this week. Okay? All right. So can we thank these guys for being up here this morning? Maddie, you can go ahead and start playing whenever. So here's what we're going to do. Would you all stand where you are? And here's what we're going to do.